Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to CarMiZa. Today is December 27th, and I just wanted to give people an update on the trunk. So, as you can see, the Dynamat is complete. So on the trunk, right now I'm at about 50 hours, and you can see every single square inch is covered in Dynamat. A lot of attention to detail there. There are 2 layers on most areas, especially like the larger, flatter areas. But even up underneath the rear trunk, the rear deck there, you can see that, which that and the back seat have 2 layers on both the back side here and on the front side there. So that is super, super dead, especially to absorb road noise. You can see also, we'll talk about the expandable spray foam in a minute. So in terms of the Dynamat, that is done. It was about 76 square feet, if anyone is interested. Also notice like the attention to detail here. Just basically try to cover everything I possibly could. Also, I mentioned serviceability when talking about the doors. Here is the fuel pump. This is the factory door for it. You'll notice too, this piece right here is kind of indented. It was bumped out from the factory, and there's really no reason for it because this is really not, it's well below this lip. See this? The problem I had is that this was then the highest point of the trunk. So if I put the floor in, it's got to all be resting in this little tiny piece. So as you notice now, it is indented. I just gently reshaped it. But again, notice the attention to detail. I redid this gasket, just resealed it, and then Dynamated this. Even like cutting out the Dynamat just where the screws go, just to make sure for integrity, and that will screw back in. So very solid there. In terms of the weight of the Dynamat in the trunk, I added about 35 pounds, so pretty solid. And also in terms of Dynamat, if you're interested, I do have other videos, if you haven't seen those on the car, where I've gone through and described the rest of the interior, some kind of tips and tricks as well for Dynamatting. So be sure to check out those other videos. So in terms of the spray foam, if you notice, it is kind of seeping out there. I don't have it here, but basically I used, large gap fill expandable spray foam, which comes with about a 6-inch plastic straw on the end of it. And I attached tubing that was about 2 feet long, and then taped a piece of wire to that, about the consistency of like a coat hanger. And I use that to get deep inside of this area. So if you notice, this area, this whole area, again with the 2 layers of Dynamat, is rock solid. So very, very solid. Now also you'll notice it's kind of coming out and there's a motor that goes right here. Again, notice the attention to detail where I cut out the Dynamat for the screws. The motor that goes there goes to the fuel door, and there's a little rod that comes off of it and goes inside of here. I've covered up that area, but obviously I'm going to need to cut away some of that expandable spray foam. If you've ever used this stuff, it takes a few days for it to fully cure. So I wasn't sure, and if I try to cut through it right now and it's not fully cured, it's going to make a huge mess and be leaky on the inside. So what did I do to figure that out? I borrowed a trick from my wife's baking. So I know that when you're making a cake, you put a toothpick in the cake and pull it out. And if the toothpick is wet, it's still wet inside. So I just took a metal piece of this metal, poked it in there, pulled it out, and sure enough, it's wet on the inside. So I know it's not cured, right? So once that cures, I'll just come in, trim this off, and I've got plenty of room for the motor without any issue there. You also notice these side vents. I had to do a little research. I wasn't exactly sure what these were, but they're basically a pressure vent as I understand it. So when you close the trunk, you've got pressure that will build inside the cabin, And so it's got these vents that go to the outside of the car. So basically I reinstalled those. I didn't like the way they were sealed, so I did silicone seal those into place, and I did that on both sides. And especially on this side, if you remember, the car was in a minor accident and the metal was a little bit bent up there, so that actually helped quite a bit to restore that seal. There again is the expandable spray foam in that area, and again, very, very solid. Going, you know, down the car. This again is not treated. No Dynamat, no nothing. The rest of it is very, very solid. All right, from there, a couple of tricks if anybody is interested in the expandable spray foam. It is super messy, so be careful, and it gets all over the place and it's difficult to clean up. I used acetone, that worked really well, but once it's cured, it can kind of break off of things. All right, so basically the next things that I'm gonna be working on now that the car is Dynamated is basically I'm gonna be making foam mock-ups. So if you notice here, I've got a pile of foam. They're doing some new construction by my house, building new homes. And I did a little dumpster diving and I got so far some samples of some different foam, and I'll go back and grab more. I asked the guys and they were cool with it. And I'm gonna make all the components that are going into the trunk out of this foam. And that will allow me to go in and place everything, make sure everything is good, make sure everything fits properly, just get an idea for the entire design. And again, here's a picture, kind of my inspiration and goal. Because the items, a lot of the items were hanging off the rear deck, I wanted something light and I wanted to make sure everything is gonna fit. So that'll be the next step. The next video I will post will be hopefully of everything kind of mocked up and in its proper place. And from there, I can actually, now that I'm 2.5 years into the car and 650 hours, I can actually start building something. That'll be exciting. All right, thanks very much for watching. Have a good one. Take care.